Alfred Dreyfus was a French artillery officer of Jewish background whose trial and conviction in 1894 on charges of treason became one of the most tense political dramas in modern French history. Known today as the Dreyfus Affair, the incident eventually ended with Dreyfus' complete exoneration. Early life: born in Mulhouse, Alsace in 1859, Dreyfus was the youngest of 9 children born to Raphael and Jeanette Dreyfus. Raphael Dreyfus was a prosperous, self-made, Jewish textile manufacturer who had started as a peddler. Alfred was 10 years old when the Franco-Prussian War broke out in the summer of 1870, and his family moved to Paris following the annexation of Alsace-Lorraine by Germany after the war. Raphael spoke Yiddish and conducted business affairs in the German language. The first language of most of Alfred's elder brothers and sisters was German or one of the Alsatian dialects. Alfred and his brother were the only children to receive a fully French education. The childhood experience of seeing his family uprooted by the war with Germany prompted Dreyfus to decide on a career in the military. Following his 18th birthday in October 1877, he enrolled in the elite École Polytechnique military school in Paris, where he received military training and an education in the sciences. In 1880, he graduated and was commissioned as a sub-lieutenant in the French army. From 1880 to 1882, he attended the artillery school at Fontainebleau to receive more specialized training as an artillery officer. On graduation he was assigned to the 31st Artillery Regiment, which was in garrison at Le Mans. Dreyfus was subsequently transferred to a mounted artillery battery attached to the 1st Cavalry Division, and promoted to lieutenant in 1885. In 1889, he was made adjutant to the director of the Établissement de Bourges, a government arsenal, and promoted to captain. On April 18, 1891, the 31-year-old Dreyfus married 20-year-old Lucy Hugo copyright nÄ. They went on to have 2 children, Pierre and Jeanne. 3 days after the wedding, Dreyfus learned that he had been admitted to the École Super Copyright Ried de Guerre or War College. 2 years later, he graduated 9th in his class with honorable mention and was immediately designated as a trainee in the French Army's General Staff Headquarters, where he would be the only Jewish officer. His father Raphael died on December 13, 1893. At the War College examination in 1892, his friends had expected him to do well. However, one of the members of the panel, General Bonnefond, felt that Jews were not desired on the staff, and gave Dreyfus poor marks for Côte d'Armor. Bonnefond's assessment lowered Dreyfus' overall grade. He did the same to another Jewish candidate, Lieutenant Picard. Learning of this injustice, the 2 officers lodged a protest with the director of the school, General Leblanc de Dion, who expressed his regret for what had occurred, but says he was powerless to take any steps in the matter. The protest would later count against Dreyfus. The French army of the period was relatively open to entry and advancement by talent with an estimated 300 Jewish officers, of whom 10 were generals. However, within the 4th Bureau of the General Staff, General Bonnefond's prejudices appear to have been shared by some of the new trainee superiors. The personal assessments received by Dreyfus during 1893-94 acknowledged his high intelligence, but were critical of aspects of his personality. The Dreyfus Affair. In 1894, the French Army's counterintelligence section, led by Lieutenant Colonel Jean Soncher, became aware that information regarding new artillery parts was being passed to the Germans by a highly placed spy, most likely to be on the General Staff. Suspicion quickly fell upon Dreyfus, who was arrested for treason on October 15, 1894. On January 5, 1895, Dreyfus was summarily convicted in a secret court-martial, publicly stripped of his army rank, and sentenced to life imprisonment on Devil's Island in French Guiana. Following French military custom of the time, Dreyfus was formally degraded by having the rank insignia, buttons and braid cut from his uniform and his sword broken, in the courtyard of the École Militaire before silent ranks of soldiers while a large crowd of onlookers shouted abuse from behind railings. Dreyfus cried out, "I swear that I am innocent. I remain worthy of serving in the army. Long live France! Long live the army!" In August 1896, the new chief of French military intelligence, Lieutenant Colonel Georges Piquet, reported to his superiors that he had found evidence to the effect that the real traitor was a Major Ferdinand Wilson Esterhazy. Piquet was silenced by being transferred to the southern desert of Tunisia in November 1896. When reports of an army cover-up and Dreyfus' possible innocence were leaked to the press, a heated debate ensued about anti-Semitism, and France's identity as a Catholic nation or a republic founded on equal rights for all citizens. Esterhazy was found not guilty by a secret court-martial, before fleeing France. On September 19, 1899, following a passionate campaign by his supporters, including leading artists and intellectuals like Émile Zola, Dreyfus was pardoned by President Émile Loubet in 1899 and released from prison. He had been subjected to a second trial in that year and again declared guilty of treason despite the evidence in favor of his innocence. Dreyfus, however, officially remained a traitor in a French court of law and pointedly remarked upon his release, "The government of the Republic has given me back my freedom. It is nothing for me without my honor." During that time, he lived with one of his sisters at Carpentras, and later at Cologne. On July 12, 1906, Dreyfus was officially exonerated by a military commission. The day after his exoneration, he was readmitted into the army with a promotion to the rank of major. A week later, he was made a Knight of the Legion of Honor, and subsequently assigned to command an artillery unit at Vincennes. On October 15, 1906, he was placed in command of another artillery unit at Saint-Denis. Dreyfus was present at the ceremony removing Zola's ashes to the Panther copyright on in 1908, when he was wounded in the arm by a gunshot from Louis Gregory, a disgruntled journalist, in an assassination attempt. Later life. World War I. Dreyfus's prison sentence in Devil's Island had taken its toll on his health and he was granted retirement from the army in October 1907 at the age of only 48. As a reserve officer, he re-entered the army, as a major of artillery, at the outbreak of World War I in 1914. Serving throughout the war, Dreyfus rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel. Now in his 50s, Dreyfus served mostly behind the lines of the Western Front, in part as commander of an artillery supply column. However, he also performed frontline duties in 1917, notably at Verdun and on the Chemin des Dames. Finally, Dreyfus was promoted to the rank of Officier de la Copyright d'honneur in November 1918. Dreyfus's son, Pierre, also served throughout the entire war as an artillery officer, receiving the Croix de Guerre for his services. Death. Dreyfus died in Paris aged 75, on July 12, 1935, 29 years to the day after his official exoneration. 2 days later, his funeral court at GE passed the Place de la Concorde through the ranks of troops assembled for the Bastille Day national holiday. He was interred in the Cimetière du Montparnasse, Paris. The inscription on his tombstone is in Hebrew and French. It reads, "Here lies Lieutenant Colonel Alfred Dreyfus, Officer of the Legion of Honor, October 9, 1859 July 12, 1935. Today, a copy of the statue of Dreyfus holding his broken sword stands at the entrance to the Museum of Jewish Art and History in Paris. The original can be found at Boulevard Raspail, now degree 116 118, at the exit of the Notre Dame des Champs metro station. See also, Florence Earle Coates, Philadelphia poet, wrote 3 poems about Dreyfus. 2 poems were entitled Dreyfus one published in 1898, and another in 1899 and a third, published in 1906, entitled Le Grand Salute. Ferdinand Wilson Esterhazy, The Real Traitor. Gar copyright Rad Louis Dreyfus, American businessman and distant relative. Julia Louis Dreyfus, American actress and distant relative. Richard Dreyfus, American actor, Theodore Herzl, Austrian journalist who began the Zionist movement after seeing the anti-Semitism present in Dreyfus' trial. Gaston Mock, a defense supporter of Dreyfus. Charles Parr copyright guy, who wrote a defense of Dreyfus. Émile Zola, the author of the pamphlet Janus. George White, large body of literary and stage works on Dreyfus and the Dreyfus Affair. Julie Dreyfus, French actress and distant relative. Georges Picquet, French colonel primarily responsible for Dreyfus's eventual exoneration. References. Bibliography: Lettres d'un innocent, Les Lettres du Capitaine Dreyfus à sa femme, written at Devil's Island, 5 ans de ma vie, Souvenirs et correspondence, posthumously in 1936, Burns, Michael Dreyfus, A Family Affair 1789 Euro 1945, HarperCollins. ISBN 978-0-06-016366-2. External links: Dreyfus rehabilitated, references to Alfred Dreyfus in European newspapers of the time, the European Library, a Dreyfus, Alfred. Encyclopædia Britannica 1911a, a Dreyfus, Alfred. New International Encyclopedia 1905a.